Okay, let's create a new canvas. For this one, I'm going to do 2600 by 2000. I don't want it the entire screen size exactly because I want it, this iPad is quite wide, so let's just bring it in a little bit. And what we need to do for this composition is break up the sky and the landscape down the bottom. So choose the selected tool, go to rectangle, choose color fill. Then we'll pick a color for the sky. Bluish. Don't worry about the colors too much. Just a nice there we go. And if you get the color wrong, which I think I did, we can change it now. So let's go up there. I don't want to tell you exact colors I'm using because it doesn't matter and you don't want to get too fussy about that. So let's choose the selector again. Go to freehand this time, and what we want to do is add a gradient. So sky always is lighter down the bottom and darker up the top. So choose whatever color you had before, make it a little bit lighter, and make a big shape down the bottom. Now don't worry, it looks a bit weird right now. So choose that main color again and a darker, more saturated color. Now it looks kind of weird, but go to this one. We're going to go to Gaussian blur, hold it down, and we go to about 30%. 30%. I'll do 37, whatever, just smooth, just whatever smooth. Now if you didn't get it quite right or you wanted to add more, just do it again. So add another one there. And then you can do it again. And now we have a nice gradient. So that's the sky. Create another layer. We need the sea base in. Now make sure you go slightly green and fairly dark. Green just means that's blue, and we go slightly green. Go back to rectangle. Now one thing to be wary of is do not make the mistake of being in the middle. So we've got more sky than the bottom, so make sure it doesn't quite line up. Now it doesn't have to be massively different, and if you want to, we can move it down a bit. But I'd say because Procreate's really difficult at moving things, it's probably just easier to do it again. So make it more obvious, I would say, and make the top half bigger and the bottom half a little bit smaller. So create another layer. Let's get the landmass in. Now the landmass is very dark. It's going to be green, bluish. It doesn't really matter. It's going to be so dark that you're not really going to see the color anyway. Oops. Make sure you go back to freehand. Now let's make a fairly simple shape. Don't go nuts. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, now we need the back mountains. Now I'll show you. So we want the back mountains below the one I just did. Doesn't really matter which order you do this, but I'll show you a little trick to get the right color for the back mountains. Is this goes from light to dark, so take a darkish color blue up the top, and I'll give you a good idea, and then move it over here, and it'll desaturate it, which is exactly what we need. And I'll give you a rough color, which might not be right, but it's close. And then move it around until you're happy with it. One thing, obviously it just needs to be lighter than this. That's the main concern. Now we can tidy this up. I like to be a little bit messy, but it can't be this messy. And this mountain needs to go below the sea. The sea has to be perfectly straight. Okay, that's pretty good. And now we want the beach. So what we're trying to do here is we're trying to get the masses in. So we got the sky, we got the background mountains, we got the front ground cliffs, we got the water, and then the beach. So we've only got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that's a good amount. Any more and it starts to get complicated. So we take, it's going to be like a desaturated, and just make a nice shape like this, and just make sure it gets bigger towards the bottom. Again, the colors don't matter too much. We can tweak those in a bit. So now what we need to do is decide where the sun's coming from, and it's coming from this direction, like here, top left. And now we're going to start putting the highlights on. So there's 2 ways to do it. You can either alpha lock it, which means it will stay within the bounds. The problem with that is if you get the color wrong, you can't change it because it's part of the mountain now. So the easier way, or the safer way, is to create a new layer above it, whichever one you want the highlights on, and choose clipper mask. So it'll do exactly the same, but the difference with this one is you can change the color above it, whereas you can't do it before. So use clipper mask or whatever you want to use, to be honest, but clipper mask is a good one. So it doesn't really matter which order we do these. You can create your clipper mask layers now anyway. So let's start at the back. You don't have to. Again, another nice way to choose which color you want is pick the lightest sky part. Maybe make it a little bit lighter. And let's get some snow in. And it's all just about the nice shapes. That's a little bit blue. Oops. If you make a mistake and you commit the color, just drag and drop it on. Let's put some noise. Just make sure we don't have too many line simple shapes. There we go. That's not too bad. Now go to your eraser. Make sure it's hard, and then we can get rid of some stuff just to make it look a bit more like there's something going on, rocks and whatever. This isn't the focus of the painting, so don't worry about it too much. Then let's grab that color again. Let's go back to the select tool, and we just want a few highlights here and there. You don't want to go nuts. You just want to make sure there's enough interest. Now we can put the shadow part of some snow in, which goes really blue on the shadow side. Now we can mess with that, make sure we get it right. So it's like a highly saturated blue. So a little bit too saturated. So I'll probably undo that and do it again. You could just color fill it in, but I don't mind trying to do things again. So it's a little bit too saturated. So let's bring that back. That's better. You can't really see it, but that's kind of the point. It will add a lot, even though it doesn't seem so. So, okay, there we go. That'll do for that. We'll do some clouds later, but let's get these cliffs in. So what we want first is to get some of the highlights in. So let's take dark grey. You can kind of make it bluish, and then we can. The most important part about what I'm doing here with these shapes is just making sure they're all the same direction. So obviously I'm not that careful, but I'm careful to make sure that they're all facing the same direction. Now we want to build these layers up slowly, so I drop the color down and make them darker. And then I can do it again So just pick that color and then go up a little bit and then do it again. But make sure you leave the ones below it so we can kind of build it up over time. So it just looks like there's lots of detail when you didn't really have to draw the detail. You just imply it. There we go. That's okay for now. You can probably add a bit more later. But one crucial part to this is the grass on top. So create another layer, clip a mask, grab some sort of green, darkish green, and then we've got the land mass, which is just basically little bits of the top. This hasn't got any highlights yet. Grass doesn't really highlight that much anyway, and just because the material is a bit generally quite dark. Some things highlight more than others. Like rocks highlight quite a lot, but grass doesn't highlight that much. So you need to be a little bit careful. So I'll highlight this bit, but you don't want to go too crazy because grass, like I said, grass doesn't really reflect the sun that much. Okay, there we go. It's not too bad. One thing we want to do, okay, we could probably do some more highlights on these mountains. So now, one thing I like to do is to go back and forth on the parts of the painting. And once you add detail to one part, it kind of makes it look like you need details on the other parts that you've added. So we're taking this snow and we're putting bits on the other side. Now clearly it's the wrong color, but it doesn't really matter what color it is yet. I can drop it now and do whatever I want. There we go, that'll do. Probably not bright enough, but let's not get too fiddly with that. Okay, so we can either take the water. These are probably not highlighted enough. Let's just do that first. So we've got some, we want some proper highlights on here where the sun is hitting it. And what we want to probably do is make it sort of yellow. Yellow is a hot color. So I'll make it look a bit more alive than just blues or whites. Okay, there we go. Let's do the same for the sand now. Same again, new layer, clip a mask. Now sand doesn't change that much either. So when we do the highlights, we want to be quite subtle because it doesn't really go crazy. But we need a little bit of detail in there. Okay, that looks good. Now we need to make this sea more interesting. We need some, I'll merge those sand bits together. What we need is some of this, the white foam where we're hitting the beach. Now this is the rare time where I'll use a technical pen. So like that. Because the other one's a bit too, when we're doing small bits. Oops. Make sure we're on a new layer. And it's got to be above the sand as well. So let's just rough something in. And then let's put some waves. This will look more realistic once we start changing the water underneath it because of gradients and changes and a bunch of stuff. But for now, let's keep that kind of messy. And then that's the... Right, so what we want to do is we want to add some variation into here. So just pick a big color, make some big shapes. We want it like slightly bluer as it gets more shallow and more transparent. Right, got the Gaussian blur it in as much as we need to, and then create another layer, and we want like kind of dark blue, because where it gets deeper it gets darker. So almost exactly the same, but the opposite way around. So Gaussian blur it again. Not so much this time, because you want to see the depth. And then let's go back to our foam layer. We want to make sure every time it hits the shore, it gets white. Take some of the dark as well, because it's not just white. Okay, not too bad. Let's merge that in together, all the blues and the water. So now it's just one big layer. So I do that so I can change it if I don't like maybe it's not saturated enough, maybe it's too dark or whatever, but it seems fine. Seems fine for now. Right, let's do some clouds, because it looks kind of weird without clouds. I usually leave clouds till the big shapes are in. So we want to take the dark one again and desaturate it, something like that. And I'll check if this is a decent base color in a second, which it probably isn't. It's a bit dark, probably. It's definitely a bit dark. It needs to be darker than the sky, but only a tiny bit. Okay, that's okay. So I'll alpha lock this one, because I'll want to merge them. So take that color. Let's go bright, and the sun's coming from the top left, remember? So we want to brighten up the left sides of all of these clouds. And again, I'm not too concerned if I'm correct yet, because we can change it. Okay, it's probably not bright enough, so I'll go here and then do that. There we go, it's better. Okay, now I can fiddle around with some of the colors. I think the grass is a bit too boring, so saturate. And I think the beach is too grey, so do it again, saturation. Yeah, lots of saturation. And the color's okay, but the saturation was not so good. And then we're on to little details now. Usually when I want little details, I'll just put a layer totally on the top, and then just do little bits with the technical pen. And kind of have more textures, and you can try and get rid of lines. So these like very straight lines, because you don't really have many straight lines in nature. So try and join them together. And we could have like a few rocks or something. So that'll just be simple bit of noise, but not too much. Obviously, I'm not going for realism here. You'd need a lot more transparency and the colors. One thing I will do in a second though is I'll merge, because you can see this water kind of just stops abruptly. Now there's a nice trick I can do to make that blend in. To the beach. Okay, and I'll do. So take this color, which is the beach, put it over the water layer, just that one. And use the color fill again, and let's make a shape where the sand would be underneath, and put it over the top, and then we'll Gaussian blur it so it blends in a little bit. And then we'll drop the opacity. So now it looks like there's sand below the water. So rather than trying to paint that, it's easier just to paint over the top and then drop the opacity down. So without it, it's kind of like a blocky. And now it kind of blends in a little bit. Okay, I'd like some more color in this water, maybe a bit more green, but I'll do the same again. Just make some nice shapes, make sure it's a nice color, Gaussian blur it. Okay, that looks pretty good. Let's go to my little detail layer. Let's get some of this on the other side. I want this kind of a snow color. Yeah, there's something like that. So these shadows are not so harsh on this side. Okay, not too bad. One thing I like to do as well is join the sky into these mountains. So I'll take the mountain color and then kind of blend it in like this. And then you can Gaussian blur it again a little bit. So you get a bit of atmosphere, and create another layer and do the same hue. Okay, I accidentally used the brush, but that's fine. Didn't really want the brush, but that's fine. Gaussian blur it again. And then it looks like there's a bit of wind blowing it. Let's go back to my busy layer. Let's get some more of these highlights in. One thing I wouldn't mind doing is also highlighting some of this. So shift it to there, make it a bit more yellow, and again, a bit more yellow. Just makes the whole thing look a bit brighter, more summery. Okay, maybe overdone it. Sometimes I overdo it and pick something underneath, and make sure you keep enough shadows. If you don't keep enough shadows, it'll look too busy. So it's kind of good to go back and get rid of some. I can do the same into the rocks. Make it look like it's got more detail. It's good if you do this zoomed out. If you zoom in too much, you'll start fiddling around. We don't want to do that. Okay, I think this looks pretty good now. So you could do the opposite too to make the water look like it's flowing onto the sand. So let me show you that. Create another layer above the sand. Pick the blue color. And then let's make some waves like this. And then back again. Not too accurate. So there we go. Now it looks kind of funny, but we drop the opacity down. Now it looks like the water's going above it. I'll add a bit of noise because obviously this water's moving, so we don't want it too stiff. Okay, looks good. Let's go back to my busy layer. Let's put some little white highlights over here. I think it's just sun's hitting it or something. Do the same over here in the rocks. Be very careful not to overdo this. Okay, it looks pretty good. Maybe the sky is a little bit boring. We can make it more saturated. And maybe this, no, it's fine. Right, one thing I want to do on my busy layer with basically all the random bits is put a bit of texture into the water. Not too much. Just a few things to show that it's got things underneath. Use the smooth thing if you didn't. If you've gone overboard like I just did, so you did this, and it's like obviously stands out too much. So grab that smudge tool and get it in. I try not to use the smudge tool very often because it can make things everything look a bit out of focus, but it's good for certain things. Okay, I think I'll leave it there. You could do a lot more if you wanted to make it a bit more realistic, but I don't think I would. One nice thing to do as well is right at the top, let's create another layer. So we want to pretend this shadow's coming from this direction. Take this and then let's make some sort of shadow shape. Again, Gaussian blur it, not too much this time. Something like that. Now sometimes this doesn't work, so we'll see. And then drop it quite a lot. And it'll look like there's a shadow coming there. Nah, I don't like it. I don't like it. So like I said, it doesn't always work. It might have worked if it was a bit smaller. Let's try that. Yeah, that's a bit better. So there's like there's something off camera. Can't really tell what it is, but just something. Okay, that's about it. If you found this useful, let me know. Like and subscribe, it helps a lot. Lets me know you're interested. And I'll see you in the next one.